morning. My name is Brandon Wilson, and I'm here as the Executive Director for the Historic Preservation Commission for the City of Somerville. And I'm delighted that we have such a beautiful weather today, because for the last 4 years we haven't been able to do this event. 2 years due to the pandemic, and 2 years because the rain and the cold was too awful to do it. So today we've earned this event, or this weather I should say, and we have organized the Colonial Fair, which you can see all around me. Is an opportunity to go back in time and learn a little bit about the toys and the games that kids would have played during those times. And the kids get a passport that they take around and they try out each of the games, and after they get through all the different games, they get a little prize. And in addition to that, we have a program where the students from throughout the city will be reading poems that talk about what it was like during those times, the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere, for example. And then we also have Paul Revere, of course, riding by on his way out to Lexington in order to alert the colonists to the British are coming. He starts at North End at the church, and then he comes to Charlestown, Somerville, Medford, Arlington, and out to Lexington. And it's always a great occasion to have him come by on his horse. And so we hope that you'll all enjoy the program ahead of you, and maybe next year you'll come yourself.
Come to your arms!
Welcome!
The regulars are out! Hundreds of them! I fear for John Hancock and Samuel Adams' safety. I must warn them of the impending danger. Troop movements in Boston, hundreds of them. Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me? All right. Thanks for coming out today. We really appreciate it. We're going to be here for a few minutes. So this is for the little guys. If you want to pet the horse, you're certainly welcome to do so. Portraying Brown Beauty today is Union. And this is Union's first time on the Paul Revere ride. In fact, Union a year ago was out in Oklahoma. He was a cowboy horse pushing cows. Isn't that cool? And here he is in Somerville. So my name is General Reale. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I ride with the Massachusetts National Lancers. The Lancers are part of the military division of the Commonwealth. The Lancers have been doing this since 1910. So that's a whole lot of years, like 110 years. They missed it for a few years around World War I due to deployments. And of course, the last few years due to weather and COVID kept us sidelines. But other than that, we've been out every year. You know, I got a couple of thank yous before I go any further. First of all, thank you all for coming out, because you're Patriots and we really appreciate the support. I'd like to thank the Massachusetts State Police. If they didn't help us out today, we wouldn't be here. And of course, we'd like to thank Somerville's finest. These guys are great. They pick us up, take us through your town every time we're out here, keeping us safe. We really believe it. Appreciate it. Thank you, Somerville Police. Does anybody know how many times Paul Revere did this ride? Anybody? How many times? 100. What? No, not 100. Not 100.
247?
Oh, no. The actual Paul Revere, not me. Not me. Yeah.
Twice?
Twice. Very good. So he did it once in February because they thought the troop movements were happening then, and they didn't. So it was a good practice run. So when they happened in April, everybody was all set. Now today when we reenact the ride, we run and we yell and we alert the countryside. Do you think that's what Paul Revere did? No. No, he was a very brave guy, but he wasn't crazy. Everybody was out looking for him, right? All the British regulars do patrols. So the plan was to ride to the captain of the militia's house in every town and warn them. And they would alert all their militia troops.
So we're now going to start the rest of the program for today. and I would like to make some introductions, and some of the students that are here right now are going to have their opportunity to pet the horse, and then they're going to come back and they're going to read to you guys. So don't get alarmed, don't leave. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you today to the 247th anniversary of the ride of Paul Revere. If you've all gotten a program, you'll see that on there, and if you didn't get a program, please go to the table over there, which East Somerville Main Street is now heading. Introduce yourselves there. Lindsay Allen is the director for the East Somerville Main Street, and she would love to give you a program and say hello. And if you live in East Somerville and would like to join, she'd also love to have you do that. In the meantime, I would like to introduce the people that are here today, the elected officials. We have a smaller group than usual because, as you well know, COVID has prevented people from traveling for too long. So a lot of the elected officials have gone off for their families and taken this time off. It's school vacation week as well. So we have some hardy and very loyal Patriots here on the stage, which I would like to introduce and have them stand up for you. First off, I would like to introduce the state representative for this area, which is Kristen Barber. Christine? Wearing the tri-corner hat today. Next, I would like to introduce somebody that many of you will already know, which is the mayor and the former mayor, Eugene C. Brune. For those that weren't here, Gene was the mayor from 1980 to 1989. Next, I would like to introduce the councilor at large, Kristen Strezzo. And now I would like to introduce the people that are here from also from the City Council, Judy. She is from Ward 7, and she is new this year, and we're delighted to have her here. And she is wearing a mop cap, in case you haven't recognized what that is. Judy's last name is Pineda Neufeld. Okay, so and then on the other person I'd like to introduce is from the school, actually two from the school committee, only one is up here on the stage, which is Laura Patone, who is here from Ward 5. And not to be remiss, but the other school committee representative from Ward 3 is over by the table, over there, which is Alana Krepkin. So she's already a volunteer here today. So thank you very much, everyone. So now I would like to have us have the program begin with the students. If I can get the students to come back up from petting the horse. I know it's very hard to leave. And while they gather, I'm going to ask Councilor Strezzo to read the proclamation from Governor Baker.
Whereas, throughout the evening of April 18th, 1775, Paul Revere and William Dawes rode through the countryside from Boston to Concord, informing the local militias that the British had mobilized and were heading to seize and destroy militia weapons and ammunition in Concord. And whereas, by the early morning of April 19th, 1775, the local Minutemen and the British Army had gathered on the Lexington Green, where the shot heard round the world was fired and 8 Minutemen were killed, thus resulting in a retreat as the British continued on to Concord. And whereas, at Concord North Bridge, a skirmish broke out, which caused the first British casualties and an attempted British retreat back to Boston that failed as a result of Minutemen resistance. And whereas, the battles of Lexington and Concord marked the beginning of the long struggle for American independence from Britain. And whereas, today, we remember and pay tribute to the Patriots who gave their lives in pursuit of liberty and independence. Now, therefore, I, Charles D. Baker, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim April 18th, 2022 to be Patriots' Day. Huzzah! And urge all the citizens of the Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. Given at the Executive Chamber in Boston this 14th day of March, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 245th year. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Thank you. Huzzah!
Thank you, Councilor Strazo. This is wonderful. And we did get a wonderful day today. I think we earned it, don't you? So we're now going to proceed with the poems that are going to be read that are very much historic and very much taking you back in time to when this was all occurring in the 1700s. I hope you'll also notice that all of the volunteers here, including the poem readers, are all dressed in attire that would have been worn in those days. So if you're envious, you can all get Colonial outfits on for next year as well. And I'm sure they'll be able to tell you about what they're wearing and why. Okay, so we're going to start with The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere, and we have 3 readers for that. It's a very long poem, and so they're going to divide it up. And we're going to start right here. Okay. So this is Molly Bowe, who is coming from the East Somerville Community School, and she's in the 3rd grade. And she's a Girl Scout as well, and she's doing this as part of her community service.
We're going to be reading The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend, "If the British march by land or sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower as a single light. 1 if by land and 2 if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm for the community folk to be up and to arm." Then he said, "Good night," and with muffled oar silently rowed to the Charlestown shore, just as the moon rose over the bay, where swinging wide at her moorings lay the Somerset British man of war, a phantom ship with each mast and spar across the moon like a prison bar, and a huge black hulk that was magnified by its own reflection in the tide. Meanwhile, his friend, alley and street, wanders and watches with eager ears, till in the silence around him he hears the muster of men at the barrack door, the sounds of arms and a tramp of feet, and the measured tread of the grenadiers march down to their boats on the shore. Then he climbed the tower of the old North Church by the wooden stairs with stealthy tread to the belfry chambered overhead, startled the pigeons from their perch on the somber rafters that round him made masses and moving shapes of shade. By the trembling ladder, steep and tall, to the highest window in the wall, where he paused to listen and look down a moment on the roofs of the town and the moonlight flowing over all.
Let's have a great hand for Molly. Thank you so much, Molly. That was wonderful. Both her parents are here and are Somerville High graduates as well. So thank you again. You did a great job. Next, I would like to have for the next part of the poem, I want to have Somika Gavande here, and she is coming from also the 3rd grade from the Prospect Hill Academy. Thank you.
Beneath in the churchyard lay the dead in their night encampment on the hill, wrapped in silence so deep and still that he could hear, like a sentinel's tread, the watchful night wind as it went, creeping along from tent to tent and seeming to whisper, "All is well." A moment only he feels the spell of the place and the hour and the secret dread of the lonely belfry and the dead. For suddenly all his thoughts are bent on a shadowy something far away, where the river widens to meet the bay, a line of black that bends and floats on the rising tide like a bridge of boats. Meanwhile, impatient to mount and ride, booted and spurred with a heavy stride, on the opposite shore walked Paul Revere. Now he patted his horse's side, now he gazed at the landscape far and near, then impetuous stamped the earth, and turned and tightened his saddle girth, but mostly he watched with eager search the belfry tower of the old North Church, as it rose above the graves on the hill, lonely and spectral and somber and still. And lo, as he looked on the belfry's height, a glimmer and then a gleam of light. He springs to the saddle, the bridle he turns, but lingers and gazes till full on his sight a second lamp on the belfry burns. A hay of hoofs in the village street, a shape in the moonlight, a bulk in the dark, and beneath from the pebbles in passing a spark, struck out by a steed flying fearless and fleet. That was all, and yet through the gloom and the light, the fate of the nation was riding that night. And the spark struck out by that steed in his flight kindled the land into flame with its heat. He had left the village and mounted the steep, and beneath him, tranquil and broad and deep, is the mystic meeting the ocean tides, and under the alders that skirts its edge, now soft on the sand, now loud on the ledge, it is heard the tramp of the steed as he rides.
Wonderful, wonderful. So now I would like to have the last part of the poem being read, and this is by Bella Strezzo Filippo, and she just so happens to be the daughter of Counselor Strezzo. And I have to also let you know that she has wanted to read this poem for 5 years, but has been prevented because of the weather and COVID. So we're all very excited that this year the weather is wonderful and Bella can be here. So thank you, Bella, for the last part of the poem.
It was 12 by the village clock when he crossed the bridge.
I'm too shy.
We got it. It's okay, baby. Bella, it's okay. Come on, we got this. Come on. It's okay. No? Okay. That's okay. Give it one more try. Come on, for Paul Revere. Come on. It's okay. You got it, girl. Remember. Come on, it's okay. No? Okay. All right. Okay. Molly, do you want all three of us read it together, the last part? No? Do you want? Okay. Paul has to be somewhere? Yes.
Well, Paul. If we're not going to finish it, I have to head out, but I'd love to hear the end.
Do you want to all read it together?
One more try.
Come on. Okay. All of us. Yes, come on. All of us. Yeah, it's okay. You got this, baby. It's okay. You can go. Feel the fear and do it anyway. You got this, girl. I'm proud of you. All right. I'm proud of you. Was it here? Where did we leave off?
It was 12 by the village clock when he crossed the bridge into Medford town. He heard the crowing of the cock and the barking of the farmer's dog,
and felt the damp of the river fog that rises as the sun goes down. It was 1 by the village clock.
when he galloped into Lexington. He saw the gilded weathercock swim in the moonlight as he passed, and the meeting-house windows, black and bare, gazed at him with spectral glare, as they already stood aghast at the bloody work they would look upon. It was 2 by the village clock when he came to the bridge in Concord town. He heard the beating of the flock and the twitter birds among the trees, and felt the breath of the morning breeze blowing over the meadow brown, and one was safe in his sleep in his bed. Who at the bridge would be first to fall? Who that day would be lying dead, pierced by a British musket ball? You know the rest in the books you have read, how the British regulars fired and fled, how the farmers gave them ball for ball, behind each fence and farmyard wall, chasing the redcoats down the lane, then crossing the fields to emerge again, under the trees at the turn of the road, only pausing to fire and load. And so through the night rolled Paul Revere, and so through the night went his cries of alarm, to every Middlesex village and farm, a cry of defiance and not of fear, a voice in the darkness, a knock at the door, a word that shall echo forevermore. For born on the night wind of the past, through all our history to the last, in the hour of darkness and peril and need, people will waken and listen to hear the hurrying hoofbeats of that steed and the midnight message of Paul Revere.
Thank you guys so much for doing that. It was wonderful.
Wonderful job. Well worth waiting for, Bella. Thank you so much. Okay, so I know that Paul Revere needs to take off. We do have 2 other poems. I also would like to just tell you a little bit about this park here, because this was actually... So history must continue. So we will also continue with our own little bit of history here, if we could. So I just want to let you know that this park is called the Foss Park. You probably know that. And it's named after Sam Walter Foss, who was born in 1858 and passed away in 1911. He was actually born in rural New Hampshire, and his mother died when he was only 4 years old. So he had to grow up very quickly and do chores on the family's farm. And he only went to school during the wintertime. But in any case, he still went on to college, and he attended Brown University, you might have heard of that, where he graduated in 1882 in Providence, Rhode Island. He was a popular poet. He wrote prolifically, and as many as 1 article per month for the local newspaper. And I saw Bobby Toner here today, and I'm sure she would have loved to have had him writing for her paper. During his lifetime, he published 5 volumes of poetry. So the poem that was going to be read today was his best known and loved poem. He became a long-standing librarian at the Somerville Public Library here. He married a minister's daughter, and he attended the Methodist Church on College Avenue, which is actually still there. With his wife, he had a daughter and a son. And interestingly, this very park, once known as the Broadway Park, was renamed to Foss Park in 1921 in honor of their son, Saxon Conant Foss, which is the formal name of this park. And Saxton, his son, actually graduated from Harvard College, also might have heard of that, in 1910. He served in World War I, and he was fatally wounded at the age of 30. He was honored with a Distinguished Service Cross in 1918 for his extraordinary heroism in action in France. So with no further ado, I would like to have our student reading, which is Ruth Anna Kern, who is a Somerville High School student right now, graduating in 2024. And I'm also very pleased to say that Ruth Anna has been actually reading poems here since she was in 5th grade, I think. And there was a pandemic and some other things in between, but she's back today, and she is a history buff, I guess I can say, and she is competing in a history competition here in Somerville, and she just went on to the Nationals. We're very proud of her, and I'm sure that she will do very well there. Thank you, Ruth Anna.
I will be reading The House by the Side of the Road by Sam Walker Foss. There are hermit souls that live withdrawn in the place of their self-content. There are souls like stars that dwell apart in fellowless firmament. There are pioneer souls that blaze the paths where highways never ran. Let me live in the house by the side of the road and be a friend to man. Let me live in the house by the side of the road and be a friend to man, where the race of men go by. The men who are good and the men who are bad, as good and as bad as I. I would not sit in the scorner's seat, nor hurl the cynic's ban. Let me live in the house by the side of the road and be a friend to man. I see from my house by the side of the road, by the side of the highway of life, the men who press with the ardor of hope, the men who faint with strife. But I turn not away from their smiles and tears, both parts of an infinite plan. Let me live in the house by the side of the road and be a friend to man. I know there are brook-gladdened meadows ahead and mountains of wearisome height, that the road passes on through the long afternoon and stretches away to the night. Let me live in the house by the side of the road where the race of men go by. They are good, they are bad, they are weak, they are strong, wise, foolish, so am I. Then why should I sit in the scorner's seat, nor hurl the cynic's ban? Let me live in the house by the side of the road and be a friend to man.
Thank you, Ruth Anna. And now you know why she's going on to the Nationals with a presentation. So last but not least, I have to say, and it's good that Paul has actually left, because this is a poem that he might not appreciate so much, but I think it's a very important one if we're going to be talking about local history and authenticity. And that is a poem called The Midnight Ride of William Dawes. And this is going to be read by Anya Volansky, who is in the 8th grade at the Agenziano School. And I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name right. So she's going to come up here and read this poem for us, and I think you'll all enjoy it.
I am going to read the poem entitled The Midnight Ride of William Dawes by Helen F. Moore. I am a wandering bitter shade, never of me was a hero made. Poets have never sung my praise, nobody crowned my brow with bays. And if you ask me the fatal cause, I answer only, my name is Dawes. 'Tis all very well for the children to hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere, but why should my name be quite forgot, who rode as boldly as well, God what? Why should I ask? The reason is clear, my name is Dawes and his Revere. When the lights from the Old North Church flashed out, Paul Revere was waiting about, but I was already on my way. The shadows of night felt cold and gray, as I rode with never a break or a pause, but what was the use when my name was Dawes? History rings with his silver name, closed to me are the portals of fame. Had he been Dawes and I Revere, no one had heard of him, I fear. No one has heard of me because he was Revere and I was Dawes.
Now that we've set the history straight here. So thank you very much. I do want to give some acknowledgments to the people that have made this all possible today. I don't know that I introduced myself before, but I'm Brandon Wilson, and I head up the Historic Preservation Commission for the City of Somerville. And with me today and helping very much with this whole collaboration is the Somerville Museum, who is represented here today by Barbara Mangum, who is the president of the Board of Trustees. Over at the table, Historic Sales. Hopefully she'll raise her hand or something. Evelyn Battinelli is the executive director of the museum, who has been doing this event with me for the last decade plus. So please, a hand to Evelyn and her crew, Cynthia Doherty. And we have several of the docents here for the program that we run in the city at the 3 historic sites, which is the Prospect Hill Tower, the Powder House structure, and the Milk Row Cemetery. So I hope that you all think about going to those places and learning a lot more history about those places through the docents that we have. They're all volunteers, and we thank them so much for not only coming today, but volunteering for all kinds of historic events. Also, DPW certainly needs to be thanked. They helped set up this whole thing. Unfortunately, they don't seem to be here right now to get the applause, but it is also being videotaped by Communications. Ben, thank you so much today. And then I already mentioned East Somerville Main Street. Lindsay Allen, who is at the welcome table over there. Encourage you to join if you're a part of East Somerville. And then also Ada Santos, who is our photographer today and who heads up the Somerville High School's local history club with many students, all of whom went on vacation this year because they're going to college or whatever visits. But Ruth Anna is actually part of that club as well. So thank you, Ada. And then last but not least, I want to thank the local businesses that each year have contributed, very generously donated to this event in order for you to have some authentic food that would have come during those times. Stop and Shop right over here in East Somerville is certainly one of them. Dunkin' Donuts right across the street over there. And of course, Red Bones Barbecue Restaurant in Davis Square. So thank you very much for all coming today. And I hope you continue to play some games. Make sure you get a program and a passport to take home and read and maybe do some of the recipes in there. And enjoy the rest of this beautiful day that we so earned, I think. Thank you. Happy Patriots Day.